Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Recover Your Life podcast. My name is Bridget, and this is a community of men and women where we are committed to living lives where we grieve well, rest well, and love well to live the lives we dream of. And today I have dating coach and matchmaker Jodie Swee on the show to talk about all things dating. Jodie, welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you, Bridget. I'm so glad to be here. And I love that you talk about being well in all the ways. That's my jam. So super
Mm-hmm.
excited to be here.
Yes. And so there is a lot of content that's incredible with dating. And so there's lots of great resources. My hope today in our conversation and just as we build in our community here is that we would actually have the holistic experience is when we're navigating a journey of dating in our life, no matter you're 16 or 86, we don't care, right? Like there is all of those components in it. There's some grief part of some pain we've experienced in our past. There's the resting part. There's the slowing down and leaning into fun and play and romance. And there's also the loving ourselves well of what does it mean to actually know who we are, to show up in the dating space in a way that is whole and healed. And I know that's your passion as well. And
Oh,
so before we
yes.
kind of dig into, we have lots of questions, right? We've got lots of questions we want to ask. But before we get into that, can you just share a little bit on like how on earth did you get to becoming a matchmaker? Because that is such a fun job. My parents actually met a friend of theirs had set up, I think, 3 or 4 couples. So my parents met on a blind date, which I think is so great. But how did you get to where you're at?
Okay, Bridget, it is the most random God-led experience ever. Because I started out, I was actually a pastor for almost 20 years. I
Mhm.
worked in a parachurch organization called Young Life, which is
Mhm.
high school outreach ministry. And so I did that. And my heart has always been to help people connect their real lives, like the honest
Mhm.
lives, to the transformational love of Jesus. And so
Yeah.
that's the heart of what I do. And so for 20 years, I did that in Young Life. And then I just ended up following my kids into adulthood. And so I retired from Young Life in 2017, and I was going to be I was planning on writing like Bible studies and being like a spiritual director and like a pastor at large, right? And I discovered that all my people were like, yeah, that's great, but honestly, we just need help with dating, right? And so I was
Yes.
like, oh, well, I totally. And I was like, well, I'm actually very passionate about it. I've been talking about dating
Mhm.
and teaching on it my entire ministry. And I
Yeah.
was single. I didn't get married until I was 29. And so I also
Mhm.
had my own experience. And so
Yeah.
I became a dating coach first. And so
Mhm.
I was doing that. And then I was in a certification class for coaching, and I met this woman who was a matchmaker. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what? I thought that was
Yeah.
just something that was on like reality shows. Like, I didn't think that
Yeah.
those were real people. And it turns out they are. And so I
Mhm.
actually worked for a matchmaking company for a couple of years, and it was a
Mhm.
fantastic experience. But I noticed something that all
Mhm.
y'all Jesus lovers out there know, which is
Mhm.
on dating apps and in matchmaking services. This is a secular organization. There is no distinction between um, like what type of Christian, right?
Yeah.
There's cultural Christians all the way to personal relationship with Jesus Christians, right?
Mhm.
And there's not a whole, you can't really discern that in there. And so I really started to take in, and like that's where Topanga Social started matchmaking so that we could help people
Mhm.
who are like minded in their faith. So that's how I got here. Super weird. Super weird.
So that is just a crazy story and love that. Like I
Crazy.
think there's like when we go through the journey, I think that's so important. Like that's where we don't really know what's happening of like, hey, I'm just doing this out of the overflow of my own heart. And then you watch people, I think that's how our calling works, right? You watch people start being like, hey Jody, like, would you help me with this? And all these people start aligning to then you kind of go like, is there something to this? Like, is there something to being able to help people? And I think in the coaching world, which I think is so important, like we're not meant to do life alone. And I just feel a lot of sadness that we live in this culture of like if you were mature enough, you could figure it out by yourself. We're so designed for connection and we're so designed for community. And I think, a lot of what we watch in like old movies or, things like that. Even just like looking back in like Bible, right? Is we see a different model of there's actually a community around couple. And so people are
Mm,
pursuing relationship in community because I think that's the fruit of a really good connected life. Like even as we go into, the hope of building really beautiful marriages, you don't exist in your bubble your whole life. Like that's fun. That's fun little romance glow, but you exist in a
right?
world of people and your connection is also for the benefit of other people as well. So you mentioned a little bit about dating apps. My experience over the years, that's been a really lonely place for me, but also have found, great connections in that, but inviting people into it. So when we talk about dating in community, what are some ways that our single dating people can pursue community around them when they're navigating the dating journey?
Mm. So it's such a great question. And things like dating apps, which were born from our technology that's been developed,
Hmm.
over the years. That's actually in between being a pastor and a dating coach. I actually worked as a generational consultant for a couple of years,
Okay.
studying, which has impacted so much. Again, the story is long,
Yeah.
Bridget, as we know.
Yes.
But I spent a lot of time studying and understanding how culture
Okay.
has impacted us and how our
Hmm.
expectations are built upon our experiences, right? And
Hmm.
so we are in a culture right now with
Yeah.
dating that because of our experiences, we can find all the answers we need on the internet, right? So we think it's almost like we've been kind of conditioned to replace actual relationship with just information.
Yeah.
And so but you cannot replace the the human aspect, right? Of like being able to have a
Hmm.
conversation and even just facial expressions and knowing that there's
Yeah.
another person with you in it. So I think the first thing for people who are looking to be in relationship is to recognize that you need it. And that
Hmm.
you're not going to find it online, that you actually need
Hmm.
to be with other people, and that's really the place to start, is go, okay, I actually really do need this isn't just something like
Yeah.
a little longing, but like to be healthy,
Yeah.
we need to be in community.
Hmm. Do you know that they coined the phrase Zoom fatigue during like quarantine and stuff because our brains, I mean, I think it goes into a whole bunch of aspects of social media and pornography and all those things like that. Like our brains know this is a hologram, like this is not real.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Like, and so it's kind of like when you leave your internet turned on your phone, but there's no Wi-Fi to connect to, it runs the battery out. Like our social battery, and again, we love the online space, but also there is something that's happening in our physical brains that go, it's requiring a whole bunch of like more emotional power for me to do this than for me to connect in person in real life.
Yes, and thank you. Actually, that brings back to actually where I went meant to answer the question, which was there is there is such great value in our
Hmm.
online stuff. Like we do, it's just
Absolutely.
learning to navigate it well. And even like dating apps, dating apps
Mhm.
on their own
Yeah.
aren't bad.
Hmm.
You can use them well. It's just that
Hmm.
we're not conditioned to do so. Like we have been conditioned to not do this in a healthy manner and to hold this balance.
Hmm.
And so really just having that conversation going, it's a mindset of going, okay, this is what I know that I need this. So how do I balance it out with this? So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a whole
And
thing.
for me, like one of the balancing in that space has been having real life people, whether they're other single friends or they're married couples that I really expect that will say, hey, will you sit and like go through profiles with me and help me process, like, is this a no because I'm being triggered in something, or is this an actual like, yeah, this is consistent with your character, this is not something that's going to be a good fit. Like, but actually having someone in that and having that space of like also humanizing the people on the other side of the app, right?
Mm,
Of like, these are
mhm,
real people
mhm.
with real stories. And so, what does it look like to engage? But pulling those people in for feedback has been so critical. Of hey, we want people in our lives, and I think in that space, like who are the people that are good to have on your board of advisors when we're talking about people who are pursuing romantic relationships, they want to get married, they want to build a good marriage, like who are the people that we should invite into that process for feedback?
So in an ideal world, right? Can I say
Mhm.
this is the ideal? Because
Yeah.
obviously, no, it's not. It's harder to get than we say. But
Mhm.
I think having someone of the same gender as you who is
Mhm.
also pursuing the same way of life, like someone who's in the same
Mm.
age and stage who is also
Mhm.
pursuing it the same way you are, right?
Mhm.
Someone of the opposite gender who you can use to bounce ideas off of, right?
Yep.
With whom you know and you've had very clear communication that this is not right,
Absolutely.
like that we know we're just friends and we're not
Yeah.
hanging out one on one, whatever. That's a whole other thing. And
Yeah.
then some sort of older, wiser person who can
Mhm.
give you perspective, um,
Yep.
and who can do that with you. And I know that that's a hard combination to get, but I think
Mhm.
that if we just start looking for those people and asking, then we might start to just. We were talking a little bit before we started recording about just when you make space for God to provide, He does,
Mhm.
right? He
Mhm.
does. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So those three people.
Can we talk a little bit? I love that. Can we talk a little bit about, um, one of the big things you talk about is like lowering the pressure that everything doesn't have to be so high stakes. And so, like, this is this my person? Is this not my person? Like, what does it look like to date in community in those early stages of getting to know someone, especially when we're older, right? Because I think, and sometimes in our mind, we think that, well, if we're doing a community based approach, it's too immature. Like, that's what we did at 14. That's not what we're doing at 34. But
Yeah.
what does healthy community look like in pursuing like the beginning early stages of, hey, I just want to see if I can find some cool people?
Yeah. So I think just taking the pressure and just going out and dating, like that's a lot what I do in coaching,
Mhm.
is really helping people
Mhm.
think through, like, okay, stop putting, so you don't have to know everything in the first
Yep.
date. As a matter of fact,
Mhm.
it should probably take at least 3 dates for you to get a healthy
Mhm.
assessment of who this person is and if you have a connection,
Yep.
both physically
Mhm.
and emotionally, right? And so just to have a little
Absolutely.
bit of space and not um, make decisions based on like quick things. So that's part of the things that we struggle with culturally. What we've been conditioned is we make judgment calls about people based on like
Mhm.
a visual cue, like just
Yep.
a quick visual look. We've decided who they are. And so,
Mhm.
really taking the time, if you go on a date with somebody, I like to use a 3 flag system with people, and I
Mhm.
say, there's green flag, good. Yellow flag, I don't know. Red flag, no. And
Yep.
often when we come across a yellow flag, we treat it as a red flag. And so rather than
Mhm.
doing that, going, okay, let's say you're like, you go on a date with somebody, you're like, ooh, I don't know if we share the same, family values. Okay,
Yep.
great. Pay attention to that and just explore it
Mhm.
a little bit, right? And ask the questions and
Yep.
make the space to learn the answer to get to green or red. So
Mhm.
have some fun with it, let it be, and just go out and date. Y'all, just
Mhm.
date and try,
Mhm.
and okay, Bridget, sorry, this is a little tangent, but I get really passionate about this one. I will tell you that when you're talking about community,
Mhm.
especially as believers, currently the worst place to date is in
Mhm.
church. And
Wow.
it's and I will tell you, from all my clients, I hear this all the
Mhm.
time, it's so much easier to date outside the
Yeah.
church because in the church we have these, like, if there's this fear, if somebody talks to too many people of the opposite
I know.
sex, right? Or if you go on enough dates, and it's just like, you guys, that's literally what you're supposed to do. So can we just be a
Yep.
little like cool with it and stop treating people like
Mhm.
they're pariahs if they try to get to know like 3 different people, if they're
Mhm.
doing it in a quality way. But I think that in church communities, if we could change that, if I could wave a magic wand, that would be the first thing
I
I
know.
would do, is just put churches like, you guys, let's just be honest
Yep.
that we're all looking for our person and
Yep.
be a little graceful with each other and let us do it, even if it's a little
Mhm.
messy. So,
For me, one of the like questions I've asked myself is like, would this feel weird if it was with a group of girlfriends, right? Like, it would never cross my mind for it to be awkward for me to say, I'm going to go to coffee with Jodie on Thursday and I'm going to go for a walk with Emily on Saturday afternoon. Oh, and next Tuesday, Becca and I are going to Zumba, like, it wouldn't be
Yes.
like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you went to coffee with Jodie. It's like, these are my friends. I'm getting to know them. And so for me, I'm trying to bring that perspective in is like, okay, great. At this point, there's no romantic commitment. And so I get to say, like, hey, I want to build a friendship. I want to see if there's even anything here. And so it's not weird. It's not, for me, the big, just because I grew up in purity culture, like honor feels like a big trigger word of like, is this honoring? Is this allowed? Am I allowed to do this? So can we talk a
Mm-hmm.
little bit? Can we talk about what is the definition of dating? Because you mentioned that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what does dating mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, I love this, and I kind of push a little bit with my people to be like, you
Mm-hmm.
guys, it's okay. Like you can go on a date, you can go on dates with people. You can
Mm-hmm.
even, this might throw people off. You can
Mm-hmm.
even kiss somebody
Yeah.
if that's, like obviously everybody
Mm-hmm.
has different things, but as long
Mm-hmm.
as it's not, there's a big difference between a kiss and
Mm-hmm.
kissing, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
little things like that, but just like there is this beautiful space where you are getting to know somebody and you can, so dating for me is you've been on a couple dates. So I would say up to like 3 dates where
Yeah.
you're just, and then you're not making out, there's nothing there, it's super, and you
Mm-hmm.
can do that with multiple people and be okay with it because you're just getting to know somebody, as long as you are
Mm-hmm.
being very clear with your communication. Hey,
Yep.
I'm interested in you, I don't really know where this is going, but I would
Mm-hmm.
like to continue to explore that. And then the moment you
Yep.
decide your feelings have grown or they have diminished, you communicate that too. So there's just a level, much
Mm-hmm.
higher level of communication that I think everybody would appreciate, right? And to give each other the permission
Oh
to
my
like
gosh, yes.
get to know each other and like do little things where you can actually physically figure out if you have that chemistry, right? So there
Mm-hmm.
is this safe space that we've lost where you're supposed to be able to
Mm-hmm.
try to cultivate these things. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's where I'll stop there. But oh, I love that stuff. I'm always
I
like,
love it.
let's rethink this. Really, guys, it's
Mm-hmm.
okay to actually like get to know somebody.
And I just think about the friendships, like the platonic friendships that I have in my life. Like, I didn't go into that friendship being like, oh my gosh, are they going to be in my life forever? It's just like
Right.
we grew in connection, and I go, oh wow, like these people, like I so enjoy spending life with them, and it
Yes.
like naturally unfolded in front of, like, in deep conversations and some conflict and some fun things and some like making space for each other, like that naturally happened. And so kind of going back and kind of restoring that space of like, we're learning each other, right? One of the things I
Yes.
always like to say about marriage, because I do think it's important too. It's not like we're saying that if when we approach a lower stakes out the gate approach to dating, what we're not saying is we're diminishing the value of marriage. We really
Oh
believe in
gosh,
that.
no.
But
Mm-hmm.
for me, one of the things I like to say is marriage is the endless discovery of each other's story.
Mm,
And so if we're
that's
going to
beautiful.
practice that, like, everybody has a story that's beautiful and worth sharing, right? And we're just kind of learning and navigating, that in the beginning stages of like, what does it look like? Can I show up that way?
Yeah.
Question for you, because you mentioned it, and this is probably, I talk to my single friends about this a lot, is what's the difference? I know it's kind of a feeling thing, kind of an individual thing, which you might not give me an answer, but I'm still going to ask it anyway. Of the, hey, I'm not sure, and nah, bro, this is a real no. Like, I think there
Mm-hmm.
can be a thin line of like, well, maybe like I would have never considered it before. This is new. It's not my typical preference, but maybe like, how do we navigate is this a maybe one more connection time, or like a no, I've settled, this is my strong no?
Yes. Okay. I actually do have an answer for this.
Yay, love it.
Because I'm all about like I'm such a like I'm a woo woo girl in terms of like I'm like
Mm-hmm.
like the Holy Spirit is so able
Mm-hmm.
and willing to guide us,
Yep.
but it helps us to have
Yeah.
things, some little handholds to
Mm-hmm.
help.
Mm-hmm.
So I use this system. So I tell people this. So this goes back to the flag system. Okay.
Yeah.
So you go on a first date
Mm-hmm.
and you go, okay, did we have was there an emotional connection? Meaning,
Mm,
did you have things in common? Was conversation, did it flow well? Those kind of things. Um,
yeah.
Green, yes. Yellow, neutrally, right? And red, no.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right? So you,
Mm-hmm.
you assess that. And then you go, okay, physically,
Mm-hmm.
did I want to kiss their face off?
Mm-hmm.
Green flag. It
Mm-hmm.
was the idea of kissing them make me make me repulse me, or was it neutral? Like, eh.
Yeah.
So if you're in green or red or yellow, go on
Mm-hmm.
another date.
Love it.
Right. And then because you're looking to get to either three, like you want green flags or red flags. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think and I say if you give it 3 dates, you
Mm-hmm.
should have a good sense at the end of those 3 dates. And then you can decide from there, like, okay, you can say yes or no there and feel
Mm-hmm.
good about it because you've done your due diligence, you've given it space, you've tried it, and then you can get to be like, okay, no, I'm not feeling it, I don't want to kiss
Mm-hmm.
you, right? You're amazing, you're going
Mm-hmm.
to be great for somebody, just not for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, what I'm hearing you say in that is third date is doesn't necessarily mean that I'm only seeing this person, but it's I'm wanting to continue to get to know this person.
Correct. Although I will say, once you're hitting that third date,
Yeah.
you're entering into that space between, because there's these dating spaces, right? There's like,
Yeah.
we're just going on dates,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's like, we're we're exclusive, but we're not boyfriend girlfriend yet. And
Mm-hmm.
then there's we're boyfriend girlfriend, right?
Yeah.
And so at the end of 3 dates, you're moving towards, and so you just need to be cognizant of that and
Yeah.
be respectful of people and honoring, right? Of like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, things are probably starting to ramp up here. So you're moving towards that. So be really
Yeah.
careful how you're treating each other in that process. So
Mm-hmm. That's great.
yeah.
And I'm a
Yeah.
huge supporter of let's have lots of DTRs. Like the
Oh
DTR
yeah.
is not the like, oh, do you want to be my boyfriend or my girlfriend? Like that's one of them, but I think it creates again. I don't even think it's over communicating. We've just been told that it's over communicating. Like I would always much rather, even when it's been a no. Like I'm super grateful, like for the situations where I've had either from me or from guys to go to say, hey, like thank you for this connection. This is not what I'm looking for. Blessings on your journey. I would much rather have that conversation, even if it might feel a little weird or awkward, than to be ghosted or to be like, well, I don't want to hurt their feelings, so I'm going to keep this going. Like that's not honor and
Right?
that's not loving well. So
No.
that's what we're going to have the conversation.
Oh my gosh. And we don't need to make it. I think that's the problem. Like, we have this like idea that we're making
Mm-hmm.
it a bigger deal than it is if we have the conversation. And
Yep.
actually, it's the opposite. If you don't have the
Mm-hmm.
conversations, because then it can be grown, in somebody's
Yep.
head rather than just, and it's so lovely because if we can
Mm-hmm.
just, if you approach dating, and I tell people when they go on dates, like you're trying to understand, you're trying to assess and get your flags,
Mm-hmm.
right? Figure out where you're at. But the best way to do that is to show up at every date and do everything in your power to make the
Yep.
other person feel seen and
Mm-hmm.
valued, right? And
Yeah.
if you do that and then are having honest conversations about like, I think you're wonderful.
Yeah.
I like the converse. Have you heard the compliment sandwich?
Yes. I have.
Okay, so that's like such a great. I'm pretty sure it's from Heart of Dixie, but maybe that's just where I learned it, which is an
Okay.
old TV show. But the idea of like, you're wonderful, truly, you're
Mm-hmm.
wonderful. I just don't
Mm-hmm.
think this is it. Like, I don't think you and I are
Mm-hmm.
wonderful together, but
Yep.
I can't wait to see, like you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
find the right person and be like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
cool, peace. I think you're great, just not my
Yep.
great, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, let's just do that, y'all. Let's
That's
just
so great.
love people up and then just be honest in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Love it.
mhm, mhm.
So, all right. So, you've talked a little bit about even with your flag system, people can learn more about that in the events that you do. So, I want to switch a little bit to talking about the reality that dating can be painful because we all have stories of pain. And so I loved what you said, that our expectations are shaped by our experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And so we all have stories of pain here. Now, for some of us, the pain might be this big. For some of us, we might be like drowning in an ocean of pain, of
Mm-hmm.
divorce or betrayal or whatever it may be, of like, oh my gosh, like how on earth do I show up to risk that? I mean, it's really vulnerable to say, hey, I'm going to let you see me and I want
Yeah.
you to choose me. Like even
Yes.
saying that of like, it's not like we want to be chosen and that's a good desire and that we bless that desire and then it's not something wrong with us, or it's not like we don't, if we were super spiritual, the Lord would just be enough for us and we would be able to, it's like, no, it's okay that we want a partner. Like that is such a good thing. But also a lot of us get stuck, myself included, which I've in this sphere of my life, I have had lots of input in it and I'm super grateful for it. But can we talk about the importance of coaching and when do we know that that's a good option to say, hey, like I'm navigating this by myself, but also there's some pain here. I think I want some more professional help in this area. What do we do?
Well, reach out to me, please.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm telling you, I think, and it sounds so funny because I am a coach, but
Mm-hmm.
I, there is such value in having a coach in like for
Mm-hmm.
any of your things in life, especially
Yep.
around dating, because there's just, we don't have enough people who
Mm-hmm.
are older and hopefully a little wiser who can
Mm-hmm.
walk alongside of us, and that's hopefully
Mm-hmm.
what coaches can do. And there's
Yeah.
just so, I personally love being a coach because I get to be like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any skin in your game. All I
Mm-hmm.
want is to see you living. My life verse is John 10:10, when Jesus says, I
Mm-hmm.
have come that you may have life and have it to the full.
Yeah.
And
Right.
my skin in your game is for you to experience life to the full in every
Mm-hmm.
single stage. So what does that look like in this dating stage? And then in that
Mm-hmm.
process, and there's things within that. Like one thing about at least how I do coaching, and this is the beauty of coaches. And so I tell people, I'm like, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Like that's okay. So
Mm-hmm.
there's lots of different varieties of coaches out there. Um, but I personally believe I treat coaching is three parts: purpose, plan, and
Mm.
peace. And
Yeah, I love
so
it.
I like to I try really hard to combine emotion, logic, and faith together.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to talk about, okay, what is God's purpose for these things? What is
Mm-hmm.
God's purpose for dating? What is God's purpose for, sex? What, like, look, let's
Yeah.
get honest about that and look at our biblical resources to understand that purpose, right? And then peace,
Mm.
find healing from
Yeah.
the things that I like to call them the rocks in our pockets, the things that
Yeah.
are causing us to walk, like it's called, with our parents and previous relationships. Like let's seek peace and healing in those. And
Yeah.
then plan. Let's have a plan, like, and use
Mm-hmm.
things like the flag system, right? And like these tangible things to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, but man, if every single person on this planet could have a coach, we would all be, we would be
I know.
so much healthier and better, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just
Love
to
it.
have somebody who's in your corner and it's like, you're great. Let's just navigate this together. So,
Yeah, I love that. So, can you tell
yeah.
us a little bit about Topanga Social and what's happening in your world? Tell us about the matchmaking world.
Yes. Okay. So it's so funny because I have my personal coaching business,
Mm-hmm.
where I do group coaching, which,
Mm-hmm.
fun fact, I am doing very little one-on-one coaching now because I've
Mm-hmm.
come speaking to community.
Yeah.
There is something magical when you get
Yep.
an old person who's been there, like me, right? Who has all these resources along with a bunch of peers together.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's so juicy. So I do like this 3-month coaching program with a group of people, and it's amazing. So there's that
Yeah.
piece. And then Topanga Social is
Mm-hmm.
the company I started a few years ago to help people connect. And so
Mm-hmm.
the way we do that is we offer personalized connections. It's a lot
Mm-hmm.
like matchmaking, But I don't call it matchmaking because that's kind of intense. Connections are a little
Okay.
bit, it just, so we make connections for people, and we
Love it.
also host events that
Mm-hmm.
allow people to have fun with a bunch of other people who are also in the same place, like faith, in the same faith space,
Yeah.
in the same kind of place in life. And so
Cool.
that's what we do. It's great because, I don't know if you're familiar with Young Life, but Young Life taught me so well how to have fun and how
Yeah, I love it.
laughter and, like shared experiences, create relationship. I just bring all of that now to what I do with Topanga Social and our events, right? So it's just like, let's just come have fun together in a really like non-awkward, non-pressureful situation, and then help make connections where we can.
Do you have an age on that? Do you have an age range?
Yes. So I typically work with the millennial age. So it's kind of like 23 to like 43 is kind of my age range that I typically work with.
Love.
So yeah, because otherwise it gets, maybe someday, when we're bigger, I know there's a lot of people who are like 44 plus, up there who could also love this stuff, but I want to care for people well. And so focusing in a little bit, I think what we do at Topanga Social, we're really trying to be, we're trying to curate space with the same kind of, people who can actually make connections. So that's
love
a long
it.
answer.
So we will make sure in the show notes that people will have access to your coaching resources, to Topanga, the events I've done with you have been virtual, which have been so fun, and being able to connect with people from different places. And so that's also an option. So for any of us not in Tennessee, I'm going to make sure you have those resources. But as we kind of end our show today, I do want to talk about something really exciting for our Nashville friends.
Yes.
Can you let us know what's happening in September here in Nashville?
I would love to, and I really hope I get to meet a whole bunch of you Nashville people. Nashville's one of my favorite cities in the country. So Topanga Social is hosting our first ever shaker. So it's called the Topanga Social Shaker, and we're calling it a shaker because it's like a mixer, but way more fun, with a lot more fun, and taking out all the awkward bits. So we call it a night of fun and revelry for single people with the awkward bits removed.
Amen. So, love it.
We are doing that. So our first ever shaker is going to be in Nashville. So the 16th, right? Yeah. So, and it's low. Okay. And we are making connections with people. So the idea is that we actually want to connect people, but you can't do it at the event. So you actually, all you can do is show up and have fun. And afterwards,
just notice, right?
Notice, pay attention. And I promise you will get a chance to interact with all the people. Like you will get a chance. And so there'll be a chance for you to see all the people. And then afterwards, we actually set up this like virtual board with pictures, and you can click on anybody you were interested in getting to know better. And then we help make those connections so that allows us to, it takes out the pressure, right? And it allows us to support people in the process. So they're not doing it alone, right? Going back to the whole community thing, that they have support as they do this process. So Topanga Social Shaker coming up, Nashville. Yay. Come on out.
I know. So we'll definitely share this with all your friends. We wanted to be able to have this episode for that. So everybody needs to hear this, but for our local Nashville people, you get to be able to connect a little bit with Jodie, hear a little bit about her story going into this. I think one of the things that creates a lot of safety is you do a pre-screening with people and to say, hey, let's just see that people are coming with good intentions, that it's safe, that it's fun, and that it's a great experience for everybody. And so again, you'll see all the information about where to buy tickets and how to sign up and all the things. I'll be sharing them on social. Jodie will have them on social. And we cannot wait for you to join us. And friends, tell all your single dudes. We're going to find all of them. My hope is that I already told this to you when we first started talking. I was like, we're going to get all of Nashville. We're going, any Jesus-loving person in Nashville that wants to find their person. Jesus and Jodie are going to help us out.
Come on. Let's go, you guys. We need to have t-shirts
that say Jesus and Jodie.
Oh my gosh, Bridget, that's literally what I do a Bible study, and so that's what I call it. I'm like, it's
Yes.
just Jesus and Jodie. It's just us, just getting
Oh
it
my
together.
gosh.
So I love
Love it.
that.
Love it.
Thank you.
Well, is there anything we haven't said today? Any like last minute things about you or encouragement you have for people in a dating season right now that you want to leave our listeners with?
Oh my gosh. So, oh my gosh, so much. But here's the one thing. Like
Mm,
you like every single person is
mm,
just as you are, right where you are
yeah.
perfectly and wonderfully loved by God, and you
Mm-hmm,
can date from where you are
mm-hmm.
and allow the Lord to grow you and protect you as you do. And
Yep.
so get out there and date, but
Mm-hmm.
do it with the bumpers of
Yep.
Jesus and the Holy Spirit, which you have so readily available to you. So,
Mm-hmm.
but get out there and date and know that you are loved, whether they say yes or no.
Yep.
That is all. So,
Absolutely. Amen. Well, dating friends, so hope that this was a conversation that inspired some hope for you. And married friends, thank you for learning. Thank you for journeying. And I pray that this would be a resource for you to reach out to your single friends and say, hey, how can I set them up? How can I support them? Ask for what they need. That's a huge thing, is don't assume that they've got it all figured out or they don't want you to ask questions. Ask, say, how can I support you in this season? And so,
amen to that, girl.
so great. And Nashville Friends, all the details for the September Topanga Shaker will be
Yep.
in the show notes. So until next time, friends, have a great week and we'll see you next time on the Recover Your Life podcast.
Bye.